Welcome to our journey through Lent and our first day where we come to the opening chapters of Matthew. Matthew doesn't start with the well-known nativity story that we're so used to. He goes back into the midst of time, though, to a seemingly tedious genealogy. And if you've done many Bible reading plans before, maybe like me once or twice, you will lose patience and want to skim over it. But I'm reminded of Oscar Wilde's play, The Importance of Being Earnest, where the hero is asked about his family background and he's forced to confess that he's lost both of his parents, that he's actually been found as a baby in a handbag. And then there is one of the most famous and funniest bits of the play, where there is that comment comes back to him from a haughty duchess, if I remember rightly. To lose one parent may be regarded as a misfortune, but to lose both looks like carelessness. You know, the issues of tracing your family's pedigree was very, very important in many societies. It's almost like the equivalent in a modern day setting of having a really, really good CV when job hunting. But as you read through, pay attention to the middle part of the genealogy and try and listen out for those odd ones that perhaps you think shouldn't be there, or clock the ending of it. But I want to take you to the very start of it. Do you remember how great stories and some of the most famous ones start? You know, in the modern day with Star Wars, it starts, all those words going up the screen, a long time ago in a galaxy far away. But Matthew doesn't start with the old traditional way of once upon a time, which symbolizes fairy stories and myths and legends. But he starts like this. This is the genealogy of Jesus Christ. He's grounding it all in history. Not a metaphor, not a fairy story, that this happened. You see, what we'll be reading, it is maybe, you've got a choice. Is it advice or is it news? You see, advice, it is maybe to counsel us about what we must do. But news is about a report about something that's already been done. Advice urges us to make something happen. News urges us to recognize what's happened and respond. Advice says it's all up to you, but news is saying that someone else has acted. The famous American preacher Tim Keller puts it this way. Imagine an invading army coming towards a town, and it might think it needs a military advisor explaining how to defend it with barricades and trenches and walls. However, if a king has intercepted and defeated the invading army, what does it need? It doesn't need military advice. It needs messengers. In the Greek, it's translated as angelos, angels. I bring you good news, great joy, to stop all of those walls and all of those trenches and stop trying to save yourselves. The king has come and saved you. The biblical texts are what happened in history, not stories, fables, myths, or moral stories. The Gospels are about what God has done. The birth of the Son of God in the world is a gospel, a good news announcement that we don't save ourselves, that God comes to save us. Many other religions and even churches talk about it as advice. That salvation is something you struggle for, that you have to perform, you have to pray, obey, transform yourself. Founders of many religions say that I'm here to show you the way, do all of this advice. The Christian gospel is different. Jesus comes. that we could never go up to him. So he comes down to us. You see, the first 3 chapters are just the beginning. They're just a foreshadowing of what will happen. Jesus will go to the cross. He came to stand in our place, to pay the penalty for our sin, to take what we deserve. Christianity is not about self-improvement, not a place for guidance and inspiration. It has massive implications on how we live. But the first message is that we need to be saved, not by what we do, but what he has done. And it's not about turning over a new leaf and adopting a new ethic, but beginning by believing a report of what happened in history. You know, if the biblical story begins once upon a time, it's just inspiring advice. But it's the declaration of the greatest event in history. The opening verses that you'll read in Matthew's Gospel doesn't show and give us good advice, but the greatest and wonderful, saving, freeing good news.